to a program on what are MOOCs and really why should you care. Today we're going to talk about MOOCs, and if that sounds like a little of foreign jargon to you, don't worry, it's really not that scary. I'm going to start with a brief overview of what MOOCs are and why MOOCs have become a hot topic in training. Next, we'll look at some ways that companies are using MOOCs in their training programs, as well as some success stories from these initiatives. Then we're briefly going to talk about the nuts and bolts of MOOCs and the technologies that's used, making the transition from instructor-led training and traditional e-learning, and so on. And finally, we'll conclude by exploring some current and future trends that we're seeing in the MOOC marketplace. Well, my name is Brian Nielsen, and I'm the CEO and Executive Director of Capital Wave. Capital Wave, our slogan is technology-enabled learning. We are developers of online video training via our own digital learning environment for the capital and wealth markets, and are world-class developers of financial simulations. Sometimes when we are looking at MOOCs, it's as if they are some complex type of technology that we instinctively know is both amazing and powerful, but somehow beyond our immediate understanding. So here we are, looking at each other for explanations, looking to see who's going to move first. Basically, we're just like these geese. We're all standing on the ice, looking to each other, trying to figure out what should we do next. Well, this begs the question, is there a problem? And if there's a problem, well, what is the problem? And do we need to solve this problem? To solve this problem, what questions do we even need to ask? Well, first let's talk about what is a MOOC. The acronym MOOC stands for a Massive Open Online Course. It's an online course, that's the OC, that is massive in the sense that it can accommodate an unlimited number of learners and is open to in the sense that it is free and accessible to anyone with a computer or mobile device that has an internet connection. At least it's free in the case of the academic MOOCs currently. Companies are using these courses a bit differently, and we're going to see how they do that a little bit later. The idea behind MOOCs is really the same as the idea behind all forms of distant education, and that is self-directed learners can achieve great things. They provide with the tools to learn. People can and will do so, and that this learning can be extremely powerful. The main thing that has changed since the early days of shorthand courses by mail is the tools that are available. And these tools include, now with MOOCs, online videos, social media, and other collaboration and communication technologies. We have allowed MOOCs to become digitally interactive environments, and they are expanding the meaning of education and corporate training. But before we get there, I would like to show you a short video by Dave Comer entitled, What is a MOOC? Dave is the manager of the Web Communications and Innovations at the University of Prince Edward Island and is a general education technology wonk. He is involved in open education and has co-facilitated several MOOCs to explore the ideas of both massive open online education and the future of education in general. So let us play.
The Massive Open Online Course is a response to the challenges faced by organizations and distributed disciplines in a time of information overload. It used to be that when you wanted to know about something, you could do a few things. You could ask someone, you could buy a book, you could try to figure it out for yourself, or you could call a school. If that school offered the course in the thing you were trying to figure out, you could go there and take it. You could get access to information about a topic. An instructor had combed through journals and books to pull the information together from a library. You might even find others who are also interested in the same things that you are. The MOOC is built for a world where information is everywhere, where a social network obsessed with the same thing that you are is a click away, a digital world. A world where an internet connection gives you access to a staggering amount of information. This video will introduce you to how a massive open online course is one way of learning in a networked world. A MOOC is a course, it's open, it's participatory, it's distributed, and it supports lifelong networked learning. In one sense, a massive open online course is just that. It's a course. It has facilitators and course materials, it has a start and an end date, it has participants. But a MOOC is not a school. It's not just an online course. It's a way to connect and collaborate while developing digital skills. It's a way of engaging in the learning process that engages what it means to be a student. It is, maybe most importantly, an event around which people who care about a topic can get together and work and talk about it in a structured way. The course is open. All of the work gets done in areas accessible for people to read and reflect and comment on. The course is open in the sense that you can go ahead and take the course without paying for it. You might pay to get the credit through an institution, but you're not paying for participating in the course. It's also open in the sense that the work done in the course is shared between all the people taking it. The material put together by the facilitators, the work done by the participants, it's all negotiated in the open. You get to keep your work, and everybody else gets to learn from it. The course is participatory. You really become part of the course by engaging with other people's work. Participants are not asked to complete specific assignments, but rather to engage with the material with each other and with other material they may find on the web. You make connections between ideas and between you and other people. You network. One of the outcomes that people get from the course are the network connections they've built up through engaging with each other. The course is distributed, and all these blog posts and discussion posts, video responses, articles, tweets, and tags all knit together to create a networked course. They're mostly not found in one central location, but rather all over the internet in different pockets and clusters. There's no right way to do the course, no single path from the first week to the last. This allows for new ideas to develop and for different points of views to coexist. It also means that one of the side effects of a MOOC is the building of a distributed knowledge base on the net. The course is a step on the road to lifelong learning. MOOCs promote independence among learners and encourages participants to work in their own spaces and to create authentic networks that they can easily maintain after the course finishes. A MOOC can promote the kind of network creation that lifelong learning is all about. The course part is just the beginning. And how can you go about finding one of these? Well, news that a MOOC will be offered usually spreads on online networks. People who have reputations for interesting skills or innovative thinking on a topic decide to collaborate by offering an open online course covering that topic. Anyone who wants to join in can. In a MOOC, you can choose what you do, how you participate, and only you can tell in the end if you've been successful, just like real life.
Does that sound like the type of training anyone is doing here? There are many types of MOOCs, but for the most part they all start with the same major building blocks. They all take place online. They are self-paced. There may be some rough schedule, but students can log in and learn at any time that suits and works for them best. Video is the primary method of content delivery, but the content is broken up into bite-sized learning activities. Class discussions take place on a discussion board and over social media and other places on the internet like blogs. Assessments are built into the course and are completed online. They may involve completing projects and solving problems and collaborating with other learners. These basic building blocks may be combined in many different ways, and the courses may use other elements. In any case, I believe that the video-based content delivery and anywhere, anytime learning are the core elements that make MOOCs the future of training, and so let's explore why. Why are MOOCs the future of training? Well, MOOCs began as a movement in higher education. Though the idea of MOOCs has been around since 2008, it wasn't really until 2012 when the idea really took off. In part, this was because elite universities like Harvard, Stanford, and MIT were the first ones to start putting their courses online. The grand idea espoused by some is that massive open online courses could replace the current higher education system entirely. So, why would a student pay $30,000 to $50,000 a year to take courses at a less prestigious university when they could take courses from Harvard professors or Princeton professors online for free? Well, obviously, the scenario is not entirely come to pass. But what MOOCs have done is bring teaching and learning to the forefront of education. And what we've realized is that the way we've been doing things for a long time simply isn't the best way to do them. For example, research has shown that lectures, which are the main way content is delivered in many university courses, aren't a very good way for students to learn. I suggest that the same thing can happen and is happening in training and development. Many companies today use traditional e-learning for much of their training and instructor-led training when they can afford to. We often consider instructor-led training to be the gold standard of training, but that's because up till now it has been the best thing that we've had available. But I don't think that it's the best that we can do. The advantages of instructor-led training are well known. Instructor-led training allows for learners to learn from experts, subject matter experts. It offers opportunities for meaningful interaction. It includes peer learning and network building, and learners have the opportunity to ask questions and receive feedback. It also is highly adaptable. The instructor can literally change things on the fly. While the advantages are well known, the top problem with instructor-led training are also well known. First, it's expensive and time-consuming. Between employee time, instructor time, travel venues, rentals, and so on, instructor-led training costs a lot. And because the price is so high, think about what we do. We gather everyone together for a day or a week or two and try to teach them everything that they need to know as quickly as possible, and then we send them on their way. And this makes the most sense financially. Most companies can't afford to do this type of training very often, so they try to make the best of it and cramming and jamming everything in it. But part and parcel with that is that it becomes then location specific, and it's not always convenient for everybody. Of course, this all leads to the worst problem of all, and that is forgetting. We all know this happens. In March 2014, an article for Learning Solution magazines, Art Cohen calls the forgetting curve the dirty secret of corporate training. He wrote, "Imagine that you're put in charge of your company's biggest leadership program. You do everything right. You conduct extensive discovery with your subject matter experts. You spend weeks authoring the storyboard. Your executive team signs off, and you deliver a stellar training experience. Everything goes beautiful, and everyone agrees the training was a huge, massive success. Well, your work seems to be done. But back in the office, while you bask in the glory of your success, a dreadful thing is happening inside the brains of your students. The neural networks that your training inspired are beginning to dissolve, and as a result, your employees are quietly forgetting almost everything you presented." The problem, of course, is that our brains don't really work the way that instructor-led training is structured. We can't absorb everything all at once, and then we go back to our desk with new knowledge and skills ready to be used as if and when we need them at some point down the road. We learn by doing, by reinforcing what we've been learning through immediate application, and we learn by repetition, by going back and reviewing the material until we've got it straight in our heads. Instructor-led training doesn't really provide these opportunities. So what happens? Learners forget, and they forget a lot. And unfortunately, they forget it quickly. So what did we originally do? Well, we entered e-learning. According to Burson and Associates, 30% of the corporate training is e-learning, a number that is growing and expecting to continue. E-learning, and by that I mean traditional e-learning courses created using authoring tools like Adobe Captivate or Articulate Storyline, solves many of the problems associated with instructor-led training. It's much less expensive, and training can be delivered much faster. It also allows learners more control over their learning process, and in the sense that they can make and take the courses according to their own schedule and using their own devices. It provides a consistent training experience every time. Assessments can be built into the framework, of course, and it can, at least in theory, provide learners with the opportunities for practice and repetition. Boy, I'm having a difficult time today. Well, a Babson survey found that learners like this, more than half of e-learners say that what they want is more content that is relevant to their lives. They like decision-making scenarios and that they want to tackle real-life situations in training. Well, e-learning is often not designed in the best way for learners. The survey also found that e-learning courses are the sources of some keen frustration for learners. For example, e-learning is often used in compliance and procedural training, but a full 76% of e-learners report finding lists of procedures and regulations tedious. That's really not a surprise. 38% also report getting bored with the courses, and 37% absolutely hate it when the pace is either too fast or too slow. Finally, 20% get frustrated by the technology, with 18% reporting frustration when they can't take the courses on their device of choice, and 12% say that they can't personally relate to the courses. Another frequently cited problem with traditional e-learning is that the courses are minimally interactive at best. Learners may interact with the technology and the content, but never with other learners or with course facilitators or instructors. What e-learners want and need is interactive, self-paced courses that they can take on any device. They want their courses to be relevant to their lives, which includes problem-based learning opportunities, and they want to interact with one another. Well, the advantages of what a MOOC are is it's taught by experts, just like an instructor-led program. Instructors, though, are always available, never sick. They never have a scheduling conflict, and they're never unable to get to the location to teach the course. Courses are uniformly delivered. Discussion forums provide a safe and protected engagement for all participants. Peer learning and individual networking are created and promoted and enhanced by group and team projects. Since courses are pre-formatted, they're designed for consistency and adaptable to changes. This is the biggest advantage that MOOCs have over other forms of learning: the ability to stop, rewind, and review videos over and over. Assessments are built in to the program platform, and learners have the ability to determine when they participate, be it a lunch, commuting on a train, either late at night or early in the morning, between meetings. The choices for when they participate are endless. So MOOCs are, in essence, a combination of instructor-led and e-learning. They provide all the major advantages of instructor-led: learning from experts, interaction with peers, the ability to ask questions, and so on. They also provide the major advantages of traditional e-learning: a consistent learning experience, the ability to learn anytime, from anywhere, the ability to rewind, repeat, and review, and of course, the added ability of built-in assessments. But as I mentioned before, MOOCs have been expanding the meaning of training, and companies are using them to do so much more than just teach people skills on how to do their jobs. So let's take a look at how companies are using MOOCs in and beyond their training programs. Josh Bernson, President and CEO of Bernson and Associates, has identified 7 different ways companies are using MOOCs. They are building talent pipelines, onboarding of new employees, self-directed development, workforce training, educating partners and customers, brand marketing, as well as collaboration and innovation. I'm willing to bet that at the maximum, most non-MOOC training programs never reach farther than the first four, and many never even reach that far. So let's explore each of these uses in turn. First, building talent pipelines. The term skills gaps is probably most familiar to people. Companies in all sectors of the economy are having trouble finding qualified people to fill vacant positions. Added to this, that U.S. workers today stay at the same company for only 4 years, a problem compounded by the fact that many companies say it takes between 3 and 5 years for even seasoned employees to become fully productive. Clearly, companies need to find reliable talent pipelines, and MOOCs are providing one solution. Companies can use MOOCs to build their talent pipelines in a few main ways. One is by sponsoring MOOCs offered by major MOOC providers. Technology companies have been the first to explore this method. For example, AT&T is currently sponsoring the Georgia Tech's Computer Science MOOC Masters program. Companies can also develop their own MOOCs or work with MOOC providers to develop curriculum and projects. SAP and MongoDB were both forerunners in offering MOOCs on how to use their products, and several companies including Google and Autodesk have partnered with Udacity to create curriculums and project-based learning tracks, and they've pledged to hire a certain number of students who successfully complete them. By being directly involved in the development of MOOCs, companies can ensure that upon completion of the course, students have the knowledge and the skills that those companies find most valuable. To me, it's a win-win situation for the companies as well as for the learners. Next up, onboarding new employees. This is an area where MOOCs can save companies significant time and money. Depending on the company and the position, a typical onboarding process can last up to 90 days and involve everything from courses to mentoring and job shadowing. Well, a MOOC can be used to speed up this process, particularly in cases where a large number of employees need to be onboarded all at once, or when start dates are staggered and consistency in training is required. New employees can be required to complete an onboarding MOOC before they show up for the first day of work, which means that when they do show up, they can jump immediately into the more hands-on training activities. In this next section, we're going to look at one company uses this method to save time and money while increasing productivity. Self-directed development. When you ask why they chose to take MOOCs, more than 60% of students report that they wanted to learn more about their current field or to prepare to enter a new one. In other words, they are doing their own self-directed professional development. Companies can capitalize on this initiative in a variety of ways, including by vetting and recommending courses, as well as supporting employees who take them, such as by reimbursing them for the cost of a verified certificate. At roughly $49 to $4.95 a pop, that is likely the least expensive training course a firm could offer. Businesses can also offer learning support, such as providing space for study groups. And now we're getting to the crux of the matter, workforce training. Companies have long been looking for ways to save time and money on training. Well, one of the key factors is doing this is reducing the time that training takes. A recent study by Skillsoft found that more than 40% of CEOs say that the length of the training program is even more important than the content. MOOCs have a major advantage in reducing time to train. They also result in training that is more relevant, as learners can access the content and other course resources when they need them the most. In this way, MOOCs can provide just-in-time performance support that instructor-led training simply can't, because they are broken into bite-sized chunks and videos that allow for easy reviewing. MOOCs are also less susceptible to the dirty little secret of forgetting. In short, MOOCs can provide the relevant, on-demand, meaningful training that employees want and that companies need them to have. The last three uses of MOOCs, educating partners and customers, brand marketing, and collaboration and innovation, are outside of what is normally considered the scope of training. But companies are finding significant benefits, and let's look at them quickly. In terms of educating outside parties, companies are running MOOCs to teach both their partners and their customers how to use their products. This is a way of providing partner and customer support, which both reduce the total load on the traditional support infrastructure and encourages wider acceptance and adoption of their products. Next is brand marketing. Running a MOOC is an excellent way to promote brand awareness. We've seen local and regional colleges engage in this practice in an attempt to compete with larger, better, well-known schools, and it's working. Several colleges run free introductory MOOCs to showcase and promote their traditional degreed programs, and as a result, they're seeing their reach extend far beyond their traditional geographic area. Companies are doing this too, partnering with MOOCs, providing MOOC providers to develop courses that help their firms gain exposure, reaching new audiences, and creating new markets for their brands. Finally is collaboration and innovation. This is an area where MOOCs have a lot of potential. Since MOOCs can reach such a wide and diverse audience, they can provide companies with a source of innovation that they've never had access to before. Thus far, what we've seen here is companies partnering with MOOCs providers have academic MOOC Thus far, what we've seen is companies partnering with MOOC providers have academic MOOC students work on the firm's business problems. It's a powerful model that gives businesses the opportunity to gain new perspectives and insight into what might be holding them back. Now that we've seen how MOOCs can work for companies, in theory, let's take a look at some actual examples of companies doing it. Well, one of the most high-profile examples so far has been the internet security giant McAfee, which uses a MOOC to transform its new hire orientation for its sales team. Previously, their course, had consisted of more than 80 hours of training, including pre-work, 5 days of on-site training, and post-work to be completed at home. McAfee found that the on-site portion of the training was paced too fast for some, too slow for others, and in this case, the instructors were salespeople, not dedicated trainers, so the teaching sometimes conflicted with their normal schedules. To fix their training problem, McAfee decided to use a MOOC and flip the orientation so that the new hires access the course material on their own and then spend their on-site time in discussions rather than listening to someone lecture. As a result, they were able to cut the training time. Not only that, but their sales numbers have increased significantly. Many companies are partnering with MOOC providers either to develop their own MOOC training programs or to use courses that are already being offered. Google has 40,000 employees enrolled in a Udacity programming course. Steel manufacturer Tenaris has created a MOOC training program using edX's platform, and Telus has also trained more than 40,000 employees using a MOOC-like digital learning environment. Brightpearl, a business software management developer, has been using Udemy courses to train its salespeople, with the results that salespeople trained in this way are producing 30% more revenue than those taught through the traditional instructor-led training. Results like these are too significant to ignore. Many other companies are also encouraging their employees to enroll in third-party MOOCs as part of their self-directed efforts towards professional development, and Deloitte and Yahoo are leaders in this area. Yahoo even reimburses their employees for the expense of earning a verified certificate. In terms of expanding the scope of training, several firms have started to experiment with what else MOOCs can do for them. The tech company SAP has offered some wildly popular MOOCs for software developers, including one that taught learners how to develop SAP mobile apps so that the companies could use the software to give their employees secure access to data on their devices. And BloomNet, the wire florist retail network, partnered with Udemy to offer a wide range of business courses to its global network members. Bank of America, in partnership with the online video provider Khan Academy, has launched the website Better Money Habits, which is a resource that anyone can use to learn more about their personal finances. In terms of partnerships, Udacity has hit the jackpot. Google, AT&T, Twitter, Facebook, these are just some of the industry leaders that have worked with the company to develop course curriculums and projects. Another innovative example of MOOCs for brand marketing is AMC, which developed the MOOC with the University of California, Irvine, around its network show, The Walking Dead. Tens of thousands of people have signed up for the course, tune in every week to watch the show, and then review lectures about the economic, ecological, and biological ramifications of a zombie apocalypse. Finally, companies have benefited from using MOOCs to find innovative solutions to their business problems through collaboration. For example, in 2013, 100,000 students participated in the Foundations of Business Strategy. It was a MOOC offered by the University of Virginia's Darden School of Business, and in the course, students had the opportunity to work on solving real business problems faced by companies that ranged from small businesses to giants like GE, Johnson & Johnson, and Samsung, Google, GE, Deloitte. The size and prestigious nature of the companies on these lists show that MOOCs aren't just a fringe element in training. This is a huge movement, and it's only going to get bigger. Now that I have hopefully convinced you about the impact MOOCs are having on training, let's take a look a bit at the nuts and bolts, the technology that's required, and how to start actually moving in this direction. Well, the first point I want to make is that a MOOC are not themselves a technology or a technology platform per se. They are an idea. It's a framework that is powered and made possible by technology, but the actual technology used can differ in every case. MOOCs are usually run within a learning management system, and indeed that is what the majority of MOOC providers, Coursera, edX, and so on, provide. A learning management system that is infinitely scalable. But there have also been MOOCs ran entirely outside of the LMS initiative. For companies using MOOCs, an LMS is important as a way of providing structure and security, but the core elements of a MOOC are really the building blocks I identified earlier, namely bite-sized learning, video content delivery, and online discussion forums. So how do you start thinking about how to put your training program into a MOOC? The answer is not just to throw your content training resources online. This is how many of the initial MOOCs were designed. Professors recorded their lectures and put them online, along with a few other resources and assignments, and they used their traditional courses that they used in their traditional courses. But these initial MOOCs were largely panned for being simply not very good. A high-quality MOOC is one that is designed as a MOOC from the ground up. This doesn't require complete revamping of your materials or rethinking your instructional design, but it does require thinking about things from a much larger perspective. Here are some of the main things to consider when deciding on whether and how to use a MOOC. Audience, purpose, and content. MOOCs are not necessarily the best training format for every course, just like instructor-led training isn't the best, or traditional or e-learning isn't the best. If the group you are training is small, the course is more focused on discussion than on content, or on content changes, or the content changes very frequently. A MOOC is probably not the best option. However, when learners are starting at different levels, the training needs to be flexible and on demand. Performance support is desired, and collaboration is required over long distances. A MOOC is probably the best option. Course structure and navigation. As with As with e-learning, the structure of a MOOC needs to be absolutely clear and the navigation intuitive. If they aren't, learners will quickly become frustrated. The great thing about a MOOC is the structure is entirely flexible. Courses can consist of one module or 20. The materials can be videos or reading. The activities can range from participating in discussions to individual knowledge assessments to collaborative work group. In any case, the course needs to be clearly laid out with content and activities broken into easily digestible bite-sized pieces. We need to also include assessments and feedback. Assessments in MOOCs can take many forms. Just like in an instructor-led course and in e-learning, the important thing is that the assessments are valid and relevant to employees' needs. Happy sheets are not meaningful assessments. I'm going to say that again. Happy sheets are not meaningful assessments. Instead, assessments should be active. Learners should be given the opportunity to apply what they learn as soon as possible after they learn it, as well as receive feedback on their performance. Very briefly, I will conclude this section with 6 strategies for transitioning from instructor-led training to a MOOC. Start by planning. Plan a lot. And when you're thinking that you're done planning, plan a little bit more. Unlike an instructor-led training, you won't be able to see what learners are confused or if they're bored. And you'll be recording a video, which is more difficult to redo than correcting yourself when speaking in person. In addition, learners will be expected to make their way through the course on their own. So the time spent planning up front is the most important time you will spend in the development process. Redesign your course materials with learners' needs in mind. MOOCs require switching your perspective to prioritize the learner needs, as opposed to instructor-led training, which is frequently delivered in long sessions. MOOCs rely on short learning activities, so think about how you can divide your course up and the material up into brief standalone lessons and modules. This is also the time to think about course navigation. You won't be there to help learners find their way through the course, but you can provide this guidance via a welcome page or orientation video that explains how the course will work. Create active assessments and plenty of them. Believe it or not, learners prefer active assessments, and they prefer those assessments to be integrated into the course rather than coming all at the end. Maria Anderson, who works with the MOOC platform Canvas Networks, recommended that assessments should benefit the students, not the instructor, which means that they should provide learning opportunities and not just serve as attendance markers. Skills, practice, and discussion forum participation and individual or group projects are 3 examples of how active assessments can be used in MOOCs. Be prepared to take a different role. The instructor in a MOOC plays a fundamentally different role from the instructor in instructor-led training. If you are actively moderating the course, you may participate in class discussions and clarify concepts as needed. And if you're not actively moderating the course, your role may be limited to creating the course materials. In any case, be prepared to be much less of a sage on the stage and much more of a guide on the side. Well, learn from the data. MOOCs can produce huge amounts of data about what people are doing in the courses, including how they interact with the learning materials, and this data that instructor-led trainings never have had access to, and it can provide powerful insights you can use to improve your training in general. And finally, don't do it alone. While instructor-led training and even a traditional e-learning course may often be designed and developed by one person, working alone, this really isn't possible with a MOOC. The development team for a MOOC usually includes at least a couple people from the L&D department, a technical support person or team, and often an outside consultant. Those are what I call the nuts and bolts, the main things to think about when considering switching to MOOCs. As the final piece of this presentation, I'd like to take a brief look at some current trends in MOOCs and where those trends might take us in the future. first and foremost, what we are seeing here is that MOOCs are a new form of learning. It is illuminating learning opportunities that are unique and that haven't existed before. One of the biggest trends that we've been seeing lately is the development of new learning technologies to support MOOCs. These technologies are greatly expanding the capabilities of MOOCs beyond what any other training platform or format can provide. And here's a great example. LectureScape. This is one of my favorite new technologies. Remember when I said MOOCs can provide a huge amount of data? Researchers at MIT analyzed 7 million video sessions from the MOOC courses on edX, and based on their results they developed LectureScape, which is an enhanced video player that transforms video lectures into incredibly powerful learning tools. LectureScapes include a video timeline that shows what part of the video and other users watch most frequently, as well as personal watching trace for individual learners. Keyword search and interactive transcript that allows learners to quickly find information within the video. Personal bookmarks that let learners bookmark places in the video for later reference. Word clouds and summaries for easy review, and a collection of popular content for quick reference. This just isn't video watching, it's personalized, it's interactive learning. New technologies are also appearing that allow hands-on learning via simulations, as well as better collaboration among learners. I predict that over the course of 2015 we will see even more innovations in this area that will make us realize that technology-enabled learning is currently only in its infancy. Another major trend we're seeing is the move towards mobile learning. This has been on the fringes for a while, with many L&D departments saying, this is the way we need to go, but companies are saying, well, I'm not quite so sure. Millennials live on their mobile devices, and businesses need to catch up. Here are a few facts and statistics highlighting the importance of adopting mobile learning. 90% of millennials have their phones with them at all times. Mobile learning increases the motivation to learn, particularly for millennials, who now make up more than 1/3 of the workforce. Mobile users are more likely to engage in collaboration and peer learning and more likely to use online resources. Now, here's the challenge. Only 10% of the companies are using web-based mobile learning, and only 8 are using mobile apps. Currently, most MOOCs are not designed for mobile learning, but that's changing. The major MOOC providers are busy making their courses mobile accessible. And there's now a company in the UK that creates mobile-only MOOCs. I predict that in the next 5 to 10 years, there will be no difference between taking an online course on your computer and having one on your smartphone. Flipped MOOCs. Most of you have heard of the flipped classroom, the model in which learners watch videos at home and then spend class time participating in the discussions and other forms of active learning. There is now a movement to explore the concept of flipping in a fully online course. This type of flipping, advocated by professional development specialist Barbie Honeycutt and educator Sarah Glova, involves flipping not just the class time, but the class focus. They define flipping as shifting the focus from the instructor to the students by focusing on what the students are doing to construct knowledge, connect with others, and engage in higher levels of critical thinking and analysis. MOOCs provide an excellent framework for thinking about this type of flipping, as the best courses are learner-centric. This may require a significant shift in how many companies think about training, but I predict that the future will find us focusing even more on the learner in a way to improve training efficiency. Finally, MOOCs are becoming more than just training courses. As we've seen, companies are using them to build talent pipelines, to educate customers, and to market their brands. I believe this trend will continue, and we will see MOOCs used for other purposes within organizations. For example, MOOCs have moved training out of formal time-limited boxes into the world at large. Training is no longer something that takes place just in seminars and workshops. It is something people do every day. This movement is facilitating the development of learning organizations, which is a key element in a company's success and survival. MOOCs are also being used to build and maintain relationships with current customers, prospective employees, customers, and business partners. They are becoming a combination of educational opportunity, content marketing, educational, social media, and I predict that we'll see the walls around training continue to fall until learning is fully integrated into our daily lives, both on and off the job. MOOCs, mobile learning, and other technology-driven learning initiatives are changing not only the how of learning, but also the where and the when. By facilitating a pull rather than a push model of learning, these technologies are expanding learning far beyond physical and virtual classrooms. When employees have access to learning resources such as performance support on their smartphones, learning is transformed from something that happens once in a while on designated training days to something that is happening all of the time. In 2015, as companies further adopt the bring your own device policies and on-demand learning formats, training will become even more integrated into employees' daily activities. In 2012, Gartner predicted that by 2015, 40% of the Global 1000 organizations will use gamification as a primary mechanism to transform business operations. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. While the use of gamification has been growing, particularly in training environments, that growth has pretty much been slower than predicted. And this is not necessarily a bad thing. While gamification done well can make training highly engaging and motivating, gamification done poorly can have a demotivating effect, which is not what really anyone wants to see. In 2015, I predict that we will not necessarily see a huge increase in the number of companies using gamification for training. Instead, what we will see is a significantly higher quality examples of gamification that move beyond points and badges and leaderboards to gaming elements and mechanics that are more meaningful to the learners. Next is the development of alternative credentials. Over the past year or so, the idea of alternative credentials has exploded into the scene, in large part because learners are looking for ways to get credit for their non-traditional learning, such as through MOOCs. Companies are also looking for ways to better assess the abilities of job applicants, as many are finding that the traditional college degree simply isn't doing it. A widely cited Gallup survey found that only 11% of business leaders strongly agree that colleges and universities are doing a good job at preparing students for work. Let me repeat that. Gallup found that 11% of business leaders strongly agree that colleges and universities are doing a good job at preparing students for work. Part of the issue, of course, is that the nature of education is changing from something that you do all at once up front to something you do consistently throughout your career. This need for lifelong learning has been a major driver in the development of new learning formats like MOOCs and have new credentials to recognize that learning. Many educational technology companies, professional organizations, and higher education institutions are currently working on the best way to award alternative credentials. The verified certificates and digital badges often associated with online learning are just a minor step in that direction. I predict that in the near future we will see schools and businesses start to adopt a recognized system of alternative credentials, and that, if you haven't already, you will start seeing MOOC courses on resumes very soon. So, we've shared with you the ideas of what MOOCs are, some of the benefits and values that MOOCs can provide. We've shared with you examples of how MOOCs are being used by major corporations in a vast manner of ways. And what we have seen is we've also had that discussion with regards to what has been happening with MOOCs in general going forward. Well, let me share with you some of our experience. As I said, Capital Wave is a technology-enabled learning company, and we have been in the digital learning environment actually since January 2013. That is when we first started delivering our programs, and since then we have delivered to over 1,000 people programs that are relevant to the topics that we teach. We have created 3 learning academies: the Global Markets Academy, the Operations Academy, and the Investment Management Academy. So let us review what we've covered. We started with a brief overview of what MOOCs are and why MOOCs have become a hot topic in training. Next, we looked at some of the ways companies are using MOOCs in their training programs, as well as some success stories from these initiatives. We then briefly discussed some of the nuts and bolts of MOOCs and the new technologies that are coming out of it. And finally, we explored some of the current and future trends that we're seeing in the MOOC marketplace. So let's wrap up. In a nutshell, MOOCs are a highly powerful, flexible, digital learning environment that's both transforming the idea and the practice of workforce education. The MOOC framework represents the future of training and development in terms of both what companies are doing and what individuals are doing to acquire new knowledge and skills, and that's what they are. And that is why you should care. I appreciate any opportunities to answer questions that you may have about either this presentation, our view of MOOCs, or some of the things that we do as a company, Capital Wave does as a company. Feel free to reach out to me at my email address. I would be happy to meet with you face-to-face, if that's not possible, online, and answer and present any of the ideas that you think that would be valuable to you and your associates. I look forward to it, and thank you again for your time.